we are reading a particular chapter that is titled, Meet the Goddess of Good Luck. The Goddess of Good Luck. And this particular one starts with a quote, a Babylonian quote. And I quote, "If a man be lucky, there is no foretelling the possible extent of his good fortune. Pitch him into Euphrates, and like as not, he will swim out with a pearl in his hand." So what is the proverb saying? The proverb is saying that there is no limit to how lucky a man can get if he's fully prepared for it. He said even if you throw him into Euphrates, the Euphrates is supposed to be a river. Instead of drowning, he said he will come out with a pearl in his hands. And you know that the pearl is is supposed to be a precious stone. In other words, people like these have been trained to recognize opportunities even in the midst of difficulties. If there is anything that's going to help any man, I think it's the quality of information that they have access to. That's one of the things that's going to help you to make significant progress in life. So let's go on as we read this particular chapter today. Let's review it. So there's a place I have marked in the book. The desire to be lucky is universal. Everyone wants to be lucky. It was just as strong in the breasts of men 4,000 years ago in ancient Babylon as it is in the hearts of men today. Everyone desires to be lucky. For thousands of years, men want to be able to leverage even that which they don't fully understand, that which they don't fully comprehend. So he said here that every man desired to be lucky. That lucky tendency, the concept of lucky, okay, or the concept of luck, it's universal. It's known across generations, and it is as strong as it is. Things 4,000 years ago. So let's jump because of our time. In that distant past, they had no school or colleges. Nevertheless, they had a center of learning, and a very practical one it was. So what exactly brought up this particular conversation? So they said that in ancient Babylon, they didn't have formal education like we have in our world today. So they didn't have colleges, they didn't have schools. I remember mentioning several years, some time ago, that the concept of knowledge or education was a modern day discovery. Remember in the Bible days, they called Jesus rabbi, meaning that he was a teacher. Apostle Paul, as we know him in those days, was a student of one of the most prolific rabbi of his days. We're talking about Gamaliel. He said he was taught by Gamaliel. So in those days, there were no formal schools. They all, congregate around a man who is considered wise. That man has also congregated, around someone who was considered smart. Okay, so across generations, there's a group of guys who seem to be the custodians of the knowledge, who seem to understand, times, who understand seasons, who have experienced, some kind of impartation from some people who are considered knowledgeable. So these guys are taken in as proteges, and then they are mentored or trained or taught by those, considered smart. If I'm going to expound on this, I would say that the shortest cut to becoming anything in this life is what? Is true knowledge. It is true what? It's true knowledge. In those days, when there was no school, because now school is responsible for the impartation of knowledge. That's why we're so prioritized formal education. We have not prioritized informal education. So there is informal education, there is formal education. The formal education is the one that is organized by schools and systems and colleges and citadel of learning. But the informal, we're not very formal. You may not even obtain a certification. You may not even obtain an accreditation. But you are impacted by the knowledge of someone who is considered wise and smart. Let me tell you a story. Some couple of years ago, one of my proteges told me about a man they were looking for. The man was supposed to be an expert. So it wasn't the man really. They were trying to fill a vacancy. They were looking for people who can weld metals underwater. A welder, but not surface welder. This one is welding in the depth of the oceans. Because there were pipelines carrying crude oil, carrying those things that they needed to weld deep in the seas. So they were looking for someone who is an expert in that industry. And it was a scarce, skill, because there were not too many people who can weld under the skin, especially in this part of the world. Maybe in developed countries you find that because of the level of their sophistication. But here, there was not too many people who can fill the vacancy. So they were looking for this man. And then I remember, I think the man was going to be paid about $200 an hour. $200 an hour. That's 320,000 naira for 1 hour under the sea, minus insurance and all the allowances that comes with it. That was amazing. At the end of the day, they found a man, and the man they found didn't have a university degree. He was an old man who was trained by another man who only God knows how many years ago. I think I've told this story before. But it just tells you how sophisticated some knowledge can be, okay? So, even though the man didn't obtain any formal education, but he was skilled and trained in that particular area of industry. So what it means is that he would earn as much as he can if there is a scarcity of skill in the industry or in the market. That's amazing. Do you see the power of skills? When people are able to acquire certain skills, there's no limit to how far they can go in their industry. So in this case, in Babylon, in those days, there were no formal education, no formal schools or colleges where people can go to learn. But the book says that they congregate around the hall, a town hall, where so many people come and share knowledge. And if you are interested in acquiring knowledge, you always show up there to listen to conversations and glean, from the wisdom of men. Remember, in a particular place in the book of Luke, chapter 2, verse 41 to 52, the Bible says when Jesus was 12 years old, he showed up in the temple. This story confirms that which happened in the Bible. So people show up in the temple and have conversations around religion and around social life and all sorts. So Jesus showed up there too. And the Bible says that he was seen among the teachers of the law. He was talking and having conversations, deep conversations with people who were supposed to be his great-grandfathers. And the Bible says they marveled at the kind of wisdom that was proceeding from Jesus. So I quoted that to confirm that in those days, there were no formal schools, but there are systems in which knowledge is acquired. If you're interested in knowledge, you'll always show up at that meeting. So on this particular day, people showed up to share knowledge. So this building was a temple of learning where wisdom of the past was expounded by voluntary teachers, and where subjects of popular interest were also discussed in the open forum. People come there to have conversations. And within that walls, all men are supposed to be equal. Interestingly, nobody arrogates wisdom to themselves. They all show up and are willing to share knowledge and insight together. Among the many who frequent that temple of learning was this rich man called Akkad. So I wrote here that the first principle to changing your life is knowledge. What did I say? The first principle to changing your life is through knowledge. Knowledge, when it comes to you, will change the quality of your thoughts. When the quality of your thought can change, the quality of your life can be impacted. The quality of your life can change as well. This is so very, very important. This is so very, very important. If we cannot change the quality of our thoughts, we will never be able to influence the quality of our lives. I look around in our nation today, and I can't see the desire for knowledge. People want to succeed on empty brains. Okay, empty head. They don't understand the principles of how to make money. If you don't know how, you will not be able to change the quality of your life. Knowledge will bring transformation. When knowledge enters into you, it will bring transformation. It will change the content of your brain, and that life will be impacted favorably. This is so very, very important. So what changed in the life of Peter when he met Jesus? It's the quality of his thinking. Jesus was able to impact the quality of his life, and it changed. Once your quality of thinking can be impacted by superior knowledge, the quality of your life will catch up in a matter of time. So this particular story, guys move around this particular community, and this book says that one of the people that showed up there was Akkad, who is considered the richest man in Babylon. Everybody knows that in a matter of months, as long as I sit under the teaching of Akkad, the richest man in Babylon, I was going to be rich. It's guaranteed. Somebody says it's not guaranteed. It is guaranteed. The only problem is if I don't do the things that is teaching, that's when our lives will not change. Because it's one thing for us to acquire knowledge, it's another thing for us to apply the things that we are learning. And if there's any wisdom I want to share with us today, it's the ability to do what you are learning. I'm not saying that it's going to work smoothly. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. What I'm saying is, with consistency, your success is guaranteed. With consistency, your transformation is going to happen. With consistency, results are going to show forth. It is so very predictable. And that's one of the wisdom when it comes to knowledge. You know, it makes life very predictable. When you consistently acquire a particular knowledge, it makes predictable the direction in which your life is going to go. So I know that when people gather around Akkad, in the temple in those days, everyone who shows up there was going to be impacted in a matter of time. This particular story is so very, very interesting because, so on this particular day, they were going to start a conversation. So I quote from from page 65. Thereupon Akkad continued, "To start our discussion, let us first hear from those among us who have enjoyed experiences similar to that of the cloth weaver in finding or receiving without effort upon their past valuable treasures or jewels." Okay, so they were trying to find out what to discuss. And then somebody, after a brief hesitation, a tall cloth weaver addressed him, arising as was the custom. "I have a subject I would like to hear discussed, yet hesitate to offer, lest it seem ridiculous to you, Akkad and my good friend here." Upon being urged to offer it, both by Akkad and by calls from the others, he continued. The man said, "This day I have been lucky, for I have found a purse in which there are pieces of gold. To continue to be lucky is my great desire." So this story says that this particular man found a purse that was missing. You know, some time ago, I was lucky too. I saw $100 on the floor of a supermarket, right in front of my door. I just opened the car and I wanted to step out, and I saw the $100 folded. And I was wondering, who could have, I knew it dropped from someone. So I walked into the supermarket and then left a message. So I said, is anybody here that said they will look for money? Nobody said anything. I asked the cashier, nobody said anything. So I walked out after finishing everything I said. So I left my phone number with the security guy. I said, if anybody comes here and say they are looking for money, I said, tell them to call this number. Because I know if I gave it to them, they were going to be lucky. I was not going to be lucky. So I left a note. Till tomorrow, nobody came. Nobody called me. So I left my number and I left, I said, if anybody say they are looking for money. I didn't tell them how much. And it's a $100 bill folded. So this particular guy too found gold in a purse. He didn't steal it. He found it on the floor. So he now came to this conversation and say, how can I continuously be lucky? How can I continue always be praying that somebody loses their money so I can find it? Because that's what he was saying. And they said, there's no such thing. How can you predict, that people should lose, or how can you pray that people should lose their money so that you can be lucky? So he wanted that conversation to happen. Well, what he was trying to jumpstart was a conversation about luck. How can one remain perpetually lucky? Then one of these guys said that Akkad was lucky because he took a bet the previous day. That you too, you won a bet and you made money from it. So it was later that we found out what Akkad did. And he said something that's very, very instructive in this story. He said that many people waste their time, their life, their energy trying to take risk on something that is based on chance. It's based on chance. It's not guaranteed. It's not predictable. You can't determine, the outcome of a bet. In fact, there was a whole lot that I highlighted in this particular one. Okay, but let me just say a little bit about this thing called luck. So I'll first of all read what Akkad said. To start our conversation, let us first hear from among us who have enjoyed experiences similar to that of the cloth weaver, that is, the man who found gold in the purse. In finding or receiving without effort upon their part valuable treasures or jewels. There was a pause in which all looked about expecting someone to reply, but no one did. No one responded. What people don't know, they mystify. What people don't know, they do what? They mystify. What you don't know is bigger than you. What you don't know is bigger than you. It may be very small, but because you don't know, then it's bigger than you. So when people don't know, they assume or believe that that lie is true. That lie is true. So what you don't know is bigger than you. For you to switch the dynamics, then you must know. You must know, because knowledge confers on you power. It confers on you predictability. Okay, knowledge confers on you ability to take destiny into your hands and become all that you can be. That's one of the biggest problems in our environment today. What people don't know, they mystify. So they assume that there is a demon, there is a power, there is something that is backing something. That's why it is, delivering this kind of thing or produce this kind of result. The moment they know, then it means that there is always a science to an experience. And once there is a science to an experience, you can always recreate that process. Is it Psalm 107 verse 3? The Bible says that he makes his ways known to Moses and his acts to the children of Israel. Moses knew the ways of God. The children of Israel didn't know. They only know the acts. They only experience the act. They only see the acts. There was a time people were going after Jesus after he had given them bread. They were looking for him all over the place. Then Jesus confronted them and said, I know why you're looking for me. You're not looking for me because of the words that I was preaching or the knowledge that I can impact or the experience that you can get as a result of your working with me. It was because of bread. It was because of bread and fish that I gave you yesterday. That's why you were looking for me. So how the bread happened was a mystery to them, even though it was a miracle. But Jesus knew how to work the miracles. So the people who don't know will always be at the mercy of people who don't. People who don't know will always be at the mercy of people who don't know. There is a science to life. There is a spiritual dynamics to life. There is a skill that you need to acquire to change the dynamics of your life. There is a knowledge you need to acquire to change the dynamics of your life. Why are people failing in marriage? Because they don't know how to make relationships work. And they would never be interested in finding out how to make relationship work. You're counseling a 5-year-old marriage, and you're surprised that the two of them didn't even read any book about marriage. They didn't even know, no counseling, no preparation. They just got to marry. And then they're surprised at the outcome, of the relationships. They don't know anything about marriage. And many people assume that love is enough. Love is not enough. Even though love is required, but love is not enough to sustain a marriage. So what people don't know will always be bigger than them. And sometimes it throws them into a lot of confusion in life. So these people assume that it's by luck that people become successful. You don't become successful by luck. No, you don't become successful by luck. Yeah, maybe once in a while, a person can be lucky. Okay, things can just work out in a way that you don't expect. But even at that, you need a methodology to sustain what you obtained by luck, or else the story will still end up in a loss. So what people don't know, they mystify. Anyway, so Akkad asked, so why is there no one who can explain to us the dynamics or the rationale, behind this particular experience? There real indeed must be this kind of good luck. I'm quoting from the book. Who now will offer a suggestion as to where we shall continue our search? That I will, spoke a well-robed young man arising. When a man speaketh of luck, is it not natural that his thoughts turn to the gaming tables? Now, we are going into the real one. That when we talk about luck, it's not about betting. It's not about gambling, because that's what it means by gaming table. Is it not there we find many men courting the favor of the goddess of luck, in hope that she will bless them with rich winnings? As he resumed his seat, a voice called, "Do not stop. Continue your story. Tell us, did thou find favor with the goddess of the gaming table? Did she turn the cubes with red side up, so thou fill their purse at the dealer's expense, or did she permit the blue side to come up, so the dealers raked in their hard-earned pieces of silver?" In other words, was the goddess of luck at work when you throw the dice, when you take a gamble, when you bet? Okay, when the goddess of luck favors you, you win. When the goddess of luck, does not favor you, you lose. So they were trying to understand the science and rationale behind it. Then the man responded. The young man joined the good-natured laughter, then replied, "I am not averse to admitting she seemed not to know that was even there. But how about the rest of you? Have you found her waiting about such places to roll the cubes in your favor? We are eager to earn or to hear as well as to learn." You see here that they were eager to learn from people who have done or who are doing things that they want to do in life. Instead of experimenting and taking a gamble with your life, why not leverage people who have lived the kind of life that you want to live, or who are living the kind of life that you want to live? That is humility. The ability to wait on them, the ability to learn from people who are expressing the kind of life that you envision for yourself. That was the story here. The people who have enjoyed so much of luck or so much of success in a particular area, these people congregate around them and say, "Okay, come and share with us, okay, how you are able to sustain this, how you are able to become what you have become today." That is one of the shortest cut to becoming successful in life. And in that case, I would recommend mentoring. When you sit with people who have done the things that you want to do, or people are doing things that you want to do, you will glean a lot from them. You learn a lot from them. If you don't, you will spend a large chunk of your life experimenting or gambling, when you should just leverage, the wisdom of the people who have gone ahead of you.